in general, had to let everybody know. Welcome to the final one of our Tech Tasters series put on by Polar Educators International as part of our lead up Hlaðborð to the Iceland conference this coming April. Today we're looking at the world with interactive technologies, and Ram will be sharing with us. So thank you for being here today. Go for it, Ram.
Thanks, Joanna. Hi, everyone. So this has been a really interesting journey in terms of putting stuff together for the Tech Tasters event. And so one of the things that that came to my mind was because I'm closer to the tropics and some of my friends don't know much about the polar region, was how to make it more engaging and interesting. So in today's session, what we are going to look at is what are the types of interactive resources that can be used for polar education. And what I'll be taking all of us through is some of the experiences of mine and other educators using some specific interactivities, which also work across various age groups. So I'll at points and times, I'll also add, aspects of what age group it really works for, so that depending on the type of students and learners that you're trying to communicate to, I think that would be really useful. And so one of the things you'll constantly find are these Lego minifigures, and they cut across any age group, and so you'll possibly be able to relate to what's going to be taught through the icon that is present. And we have our Slack channel on as Tech Tasters, and if you're on Slack, you can put across any ideas or questions that come through. And because we are starting off with an interesting theme, one thing that I thought I'll start off with is, some interesting rules, keeping Iceland in mind, and that it's polar education, which I kind of have fun when I'm trying it out in the classroom. So we have some optional rules. So the first one, which I typically tell is the dress code should ideally be personal, protective, or polar. Exceptions for people who are living in really warm climates. But this is fun for kids to, dabble in. The second one, if you want to have a theme for your education, because we have Iceland coming up, what I try to do is build that into the theme. So if people have questions or doubts, possibly start with a word in Icelandic. If you don't know, that's fine. And we try to make it as inclusive as possible. So if you're a girl in STEM or STEAM or STREAM, as you would want to call it, there are no rules, right? So these are the optional ones, and but a couple of mandatory ones when we are going online and actually going through the content is obviously wear the participant hat, ask any questions at the end of each interactivity. For friends of mine, possibly in India and the ones sleeping in New Zealand, and students of mine, I think since we're recording the sessions, you can send it across in the Slack channel. And I think Joanna is taking care of this, is primarily people who are outside watching this. There might be some background noise, and it's a good idea to go on mute. So the first aspect of this is to make people aware of what we would go through in the content is what is the need for interactive content in polar education. I think this is where there's an opportunity to highlight why H5P or HTML5 package works. Different educators and researchers want to showcase their content in different forms. The content can be exploratory, it could be video-based, it could be something that you're seeing from a distance or up close, or it could be just that you're a teacher and want to take in responses from the students frequently. So these are 4 broad types of content that one would want to showcase and use for teaching. And so we'll look at some of these really closely. The third part of it, which I'll spend a little time on, is what is it that is required? Do you need videos? Do you need images? Do you need text? What is it that you need to have to possibly make things interactive, right? And the last one is which will, kind of switch on and switch off into, is as we go across age groups, some of the graduate students and researchers, I think some of the tools that people use in scientific research is the Google Earth Engine, apps like Windy, there's something called Bouncy Maps, if you've not heard of it. And we look at some of these as to how they can be made, really interesting as well. And what I will also be doing is possibly switching a little bit between presentation mode and the browser mode, because there's certain things that we need to play from the browser. And so the first starting point is this, as to why is it that we need to have interactive content of various types. And for that, I think the best example is the diversity of Iceland, right? If I look at some of the landforms in terms of volcanoes or waterfalls or glaciers, geothermal or west fjords, which hopefully we will be seeing when we visit Iceland in April, is the fact that each of these have fairly unique features. Waterfalls, showing it as a video as opposed to showing it as a picture is quite different. Volcanoes, showing them erupting while as compared to while dormant is quite different. And glaciers, showing the retreat of glaciers over time as a time lapse is a different way of representing it. And if I look at the highlands such as the West Fjords and other parts which have both the fjord part and elevation, so the contours work quite differently there. So the type of imagery that I use for each of these landforms is quite different. And so it's very important to make learners understand that if I use the best mode possible, I'll be able to communicate, what I want to through that imagery. And so let's jump straight into some of these types. And the first one I would like to look at is that of an explorer, right? So imagine Sophie or Anne or Katie or Betsy or Joanna as an explorer. Joanna's in Alaska, and obviously for her, it's going to be bears, anything between brown and white. She's going to have a little bit of whale watching, and thanks to a lot of global warming now, there's going to be a lot of mosquitoes and gnats as well. Iceland is suffering from that. So one type of content that's really interesting to explore is that of hotspots. As you can see, there are 3 types of hotspots images that I've shown here. One is the image, where you have a particular image and there are different locations you can click on, and there's information which pops about each of them, right? If it's going to be a question and answer based, then as a teacher or an educator, you want your students to respond and want to monitor and evaluate them. So you might want to have something with correct answers and wrong answers and just not pass on information, right? So it could be used for testing as well. So let's look at one type of hotspot. And so this is the one of 4 types of, species that you might find in Iceland. And if you want to respond with and guessing as to what is where, I think you can do that over your phone. So I'm just going to hover near the place, and possibly one of you can just give me an answer as to what the animal that is in that place is going to be. Anyone going for the first one? Let me start from the north. Joanna, Sophie, what do you think is the first question mark? What species could it be?
I'm going to let Sophie do it because you've showed me this already, so I have an idea in my
head. Yeah, okay.
Sophie says
And Katie?
teal. We've got somebody with a caribou response. We've got somebody with a mosquito. So you've.
Okay. So let me quickly take you through how this works. So the Westfjord is popular for the Arctic fox. There's an Arctic fox center as well. So if you click on the question mark, you can make an image load, you can make a video load, you can make a piece of text load, right? So the idea is to explore Iceland through a journey of visuals. So such a hotspot really works for people who don't know much about Iceland, but want to learn about the various species there, and definitely works for school kids, right? And the more, I mean, obviously sheep you find everywhere, but I think some of the unique ones, the puffins, right from maybe Shetland to southern Iceland, are quite popular. And so this is just one form of content, which are hotspots, and you can create a journey around these. The second one, which I'm going to look at, is at the opposite end, which is the Antarctic ice shelves. So personally, the most recent polar course that I did was on Antarctic studies. So for me, I spent some time at the Ross Sea ice shelf, but here it's a little more textual, where you're talking about some of the ice shelves, and depending on imagery and what you want to talk about, if you want to talk about a piece of the ice shelf breaking off, then maybe you would want to add that as a video. But if it's just about making people understand or read about each of these different ice shelves, then simple text would do, right? But what it does is it helps you cover a particular geography based on the type of content that you want to showcase. So, and you don't have to Google too much. A lot of these images are available on Wikipedia, so you don't have to go about creating these images. You're just layering a background image and some images or text on top of it, right? So, so this is, yeah.
There's a question through the chat to make sure at some point you tell us a little bit about the program in which you're actually creating this, because the program is web-based.
Absolutely. So that's part of 15 minutes of time we'll spend on that, and as to how to go about it. And so effectively, if you look at the agenda, the ingredients required and how to create them is what I'll spend a little time on, so that you get a hang of that. Similar journeys, exploratory. If you want to, Joanna's region is here. So if you want to make students understand, okay, where are polar bears found? So they'll possibly click on certain locations. Some might be correct, some might be wrong. So it could be, a bit of the passage here. It could be the Hudson Bay and Churchill and Manitoba. It could be Alaska. So I think getting them aware of certain regions and sensitive zones, because polar bears are associated with a lot of imagery on climate change and saving the ice. I think that works. Another thing that works is because we'll have a lot of people from the earth sciences background, and energy is a huge segment. So a lot of research going on in that area. So people would also be interested in terms of how to showcase some of that content here. And obviously, some of it is not so prominent because nuclear is there in Russia as well, and some of the other countries. But I think tagging one energy form to a primal location is something that is interesting. So what I would like to showcase here is something called Bouncy Maps when we are talking about energy. So Bouncy Maps is a website. Some of it is paid, but quite a lot of free data available. What Bouncy Maps does is, depending on the volume of data or the quantum of data for that particular region, it increases and decreases the size of the proportionality of the map, right? So we all know that if I take forms of energy, there's a lot of geothermal energy in Iceland. So from a regular map, if I want to convert that to a bouncy map, right? So I just click here, and then voila, the size of Iceland just increases in proportion, right? So people get to know that, hey, Iceland seems to be a place where there is a bit of geothermal energy in place. I didn't know Italy was there in that space at all until I started looking at, a bouncy map. So there are certain surprises. Certain things are not so surprising. For example, if I look at some of the forms of energy like nuclear, I know Russia is a player, China is a player, France is a player, the US is a player, right? So it's not so much of a surprise. Other parameters like population, not a big surprise. You'll find China and us, India, there all over. So, but I think the good thing is, for people who have certain idea about their own country and want to learn about which other geographies are also competing with them are on a similar space, I think Bouncy Maps is a good way of actually, showcasing that, right? So that was about, a bit of hotspots and Bouncy Maps in a way where you showcase a geographical region and want to highlight different things about it. And typically the imagery that you use would be in the form of maps or landscapes, and you can create various hotspots. And there are also various smaller things. So you can, if you want to showcase how to make, a sandwich, you can show your, a plate and sandwiches and vegetables and create a whole menu card out of it, right? Or a recipe out of it. So there are various ways you can actually go about it, but I just thought I'll showcase some of these elements on that. The second thing that I wanted to talk about is a lot of us create videos, but we want to add some information and interactivity to videos, right? And so H5P also has an interactive video function. In fact, it has about 30-40 types of interactivities. So I'm going to showcase one of them for you, which is an interactive video, which is this time on whales. And let me just minimize this. Can you guys hear my audio? Yeah?
Yes, we can hear it.
Cool. So interactive videos adds a layer of, content on top of an existing video. So I can create placeholders at various points in time. Let me just move the menu away. And for example, if in the timeline, if I want a particular piece of content to appear, just like a hotspot on the timeline, I place certain elements. So if I want to know what a pod of orcas is, it's easy for me to make the student click on it, learn about it, and then proceed forward. Right? And then I could increase difficulty, complexity of content. I could talk about beluga whales. There's a lot of news about beluga whales in captivity, and recently I think Russia has been releasing a few, and also Iceland is having a whale, what do you call it, a sanctuary in that sense, which they're experimenting with. So we can talk about the behavioral traits of beluga whales, but at the same time mention that it's wrong to confine them to small closed spaces. You can talk about the kind of noises they make. I just captured the flash, no flash icon here. I think this was the Winnipeg Zoo. I'm not sure where this was. The fact that they're sensitive to light, they're also sensitive to loud noises. This is a humpback mom and calf in Antarctica, which I took, I think, way back in 2013. But the highlight is, if you show the young one and the mom and kind of relate it to freedom, I think the thing kind of sets in. And then you could have a summary, like choose the correct statement. Beluga whales are also known as orcas or killer whales. Okay, maybe this one. And then choose the correct statements again. And then, so that's a summary or kind of reflection at the end of the video. And there you are. So this is one of the kinds of interactivity which is there. Typically, what we would tend to do is more often than not try to add content in the video itself, but that isn't always very interactive from the student standpoint or the learner standpoint. So there are ways to make this a little more interesting using H5P. Similarly, there are ways where we can, zoom in and zoom out of content. And one of the ways of representing this is, either through images. You have a set of 2 images, 3 images, 4 images. They work really, really well. And so I'm just going to show you some examples of that. So, Jonah, should I share the link on the chat so people can open it and look at it themselves?
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that work?
Yeah, go ahead.
So this is the H5P website, and this is one of the content pieces that which I wanted to showcase. So if you can see, it's a map of Europe. I pasted the link on chat. So what this basically does is we have created this, or they've created this with just 3 sets of images. So one image here, there's another image here, there's another image here. So when you move the slider, there is a slow reveal of other natural landforms and physical features. So it could be water bodies, it could be the political outline or the map here. So what the software does is, if you got 3 images, it will help you, move from one to the other, right? So you're going from here to here, and then to here, right? And I think you might have to wait for a little time for it to load in case you're doing it over the phone, or if the connection is a little slow. And it's kind of a slow reveal that is there, which happens. And this could be done with even smaller images, like the one on a microscope. So it takes a little time to load because it's doing it from the website directly. So I have a USB microscope. So if I take pictures of, unfortunately, I don't have snowflakes here in Mumbai, but if there were, I would take some snapshots and slowly, or a video and create a zoom out of it and take it to the level of detailing that somebody might actually want to look at. And these are aids which work really well in the classroom, right? The other things which are presentation types where it's just a simple 4 images. It's not going to transition from one to the other, but it's just that they want to show different seasons, and that's an interesting way of doing it, right? And so that's pretty much that as far as this particular tool goes. And but by far the most effective one I've seen is where you have different layers of the same image, and you're able to transition from one to the other, right? And what we can do is we can look at the type of image that you have and choose one of the formats that might actually go with communicating what is it that you want to talk about in the image. So there is one tool which is called image juxtaposition, which is something like a slider you would have found on Facebook. So I've done that on the PEI website here, which is an image of Kirkfell in Iceland. And I had taken these pictures in summer and in winter, unfortunately, not exactly the same size. But if you want to show people about how Iceland transforms from, say, uh, summer to winter, then this is one of the best ways. I mean, and you could do various things with it. You could show different seasons. You could use it to show before, after. So 1950, when was the last time the glacier looked like this? And after a bit of a retreat, how did a particular glacier look like, right? So I think that's something that could be shown even through such an imagery, right?
And Rob,
And
one thing
yeah,
I am going to make sure I look up and put on our Slack channel is there's been a significant amount throughout the Arctic of photo research to track the growth of shrub
right,
lines as well as ice change. And I know there's a number of
right.
banks of those images, and this would be perfect for that.
Absolutely. I think that's typically why this is recommended for people who are into research is they normally go to the same location more than once, and you would find various collections of images where there are certain differences over time, and it's just wow. Like Iceland, Greenland, Canada. I mean, the polar regions are just perfectly suited for it, and even places where now there's a lot of work going on with respect to permafrost and stuff. I think it's just great. uh, so this was one. And uh, for teachers, I think where they want a lot of interaction and response, there are lots of quizzes and MCQs, dictation tools, crosswords. If you want to look at kids, then uh, we also have things like word search. So here I had created one which is, find the types of penguin on word search, and all you have to do is type the name, click a button, and you'll have your, word grid ready, right? So this is something that you can just make the younger kids fool around with a lot more. And so for people who spend a lot of time on this, where you want to make the kids spend time, do something, get a response, I think there are various tools for the teachers to use. And before we go into how to actually go about creating it, let me quickly show you some of the related tools. And if you have any questions, then you can ask me, and then we can go into how to go about the creation. So a couple of the weather tools that we use, one is obviously Windy, and because it is a little bit dynamic and there are various layers of showcasing temperature, clouds, and so on. It's quite a nice tool to have. Obviously, it's showing my region, so India, the polar region, you can still go there. It will take a little time to load, but it's a wonderful tool. An equivalent tool, which is also good with respect to is the Earth one, the Earth.null school. This again is fairly good because I can show whatever overlay on the grid that I want to. So right now it's temperature. If I want to show the wind, then I can show the wind part of it, and I can even decide what part of it I want to actually animate, and whether I want to show more of the air or the ocean and so on, right? So those are things that help me focus on certain aspects of the earth, and how things change over time, right? And typically the information is fairly accurate, but for school kids and college graduates, we use these tools more to make them understand even simple things like which direction is it going in, is it clockwise, anti-clockwise, right? And certain basic elements of southwest to northeast and southeast to northwest. The India has its own monsoons, and so kind of typically informing them about how it actually comes about, right? So these are two really good tools that I find. And lastly, we have the most popular Google Earth engine. Though you can add data to it, but I've just taken a Columbia Glacier retreat. The other one, which is really relevant to us, is from India. There's one on meandering rivers, and because India is always the water problem is constant. So I think that's something that we spend some time talking about. Uh, there's not so much data on the Siberian fires, but there are the bushfires in Australia, which is really good for explaining about climate change, and also in some aspects of it, from uh, the disappearance of the Aral Sea. That's great as well. And these can be viewed in 3D mode as well, depending on your bandwidth. And you can go to particular years if you want to actually showcase what actually happened in that year. So if you feel that out of these data portions, there was some significant change that happened on that particular year, then showing that transformation over that year is really fantastic for kids to know about, visually seeing that devastation that climate change causes, right? So these were some of the tools that we use. But yeah, before I go further, any questions? I'll be happy to take them.
There's a question in the chat, Ram, about have you introduced these tools to students and let the students create their own content with it?
No, I think the challenge comes because there are specific platforms which are used by educators where it's easy to create the content. And sometimes what eventually happened was the first 2-3 years H5P was completely free, and obviously after a point in time they kind of went into the commercial mode of things, and so that's been a challenge. And that's why we use it predominantly as an educational organization, which could be a school, it could be a company. PEI, what I've done is I've installed H5P on the WordPress website. It is absolutely free. So we can create content on the PEI website and people can start using it, right? So so the challenge which I'm coming to next is it's a wonderful tool. There are certain tools where it's easy for people to create content. So for example, in H5P itself, what they do is if you go to the H5P website and sign up for a trial or whatever, there'll be certain pieces of content which are available for free, right? So presently they have released crosswords which are free, sorting paragraphs, image choices. So the students can themselves go in and create content because these are freely available on their platform and they can start using it, right? But there are, like I said, 35-40 content types. And to avail all of them, you need to have some sort of either a content management system or have a dummy website where you can just install it and then fool around with it, right? And so the next bit is what I'm going to do is talk about uh, how to go about utilizing it if you're an educator. And so there are two things about H5P, and there are ones which are freely available. We'll be able to tell you about what are the equivalents of H5P, but they might not be available as a single package. There might be different tools that you might have to use and send to students if they want to create it themselves. So the first thing is that you would need is some sort of a platform where you can just install H5P. Just click off a button and it installs. Typically, it can be done very easily if you have a website which is on WordPress, like Polar Educators International has, or it could be on Drupal, which is any content management system. A lot of educators teach over Moodle. Moodle is another platform where H5P is available, and you can create those over Moodle, and people can start using it. A lot of schools also have their own learning management systems, and these can be installed in those as well. So it could be Canvas, it could be Blackboard. So there are various ones which H5P supports. And if you have a school which has a content management system, then you just need to figure out whether H5P supports it, or just create a dummy WordPress site and just install H5P and start using it, right? So that's one part of it. The second part of it is the type of content you want to showcase. What is the core piece of it? Is it a video? Is it an audio? It is an image? Is it a text? So like Joanna was saying that she has a lot of images. So all she needs is those images arranged in a particular way so that it's easy for you to know which image is what, right? So if the image is about summer and winter, they're just two images, no problem. But if you have 1,000 images and you want to put them in sequence, and if they're not numbered, then you have a problem, right? So I think getting that thing ready is the onus is on you. That you have, okay, this is the content I have, which I want to show to students. And if I have them arranged and cataloged in a certain way, then it's easy for me to actually implement it, right? And these are the four types, which I said. For example, if it's a crossword or word search, you need only text. If it's an interactive video, you need the video. If it's something about dictation or listen and answer, you need the audio. If it's otherwise, you just need images and photos, right? So these are the simple types of content. So what we can do now is I'll just tell you how the platform works. I've installed it in WordPress, and let me create this one of these content pieces once again. So what happens is the moment you install H5P content, it downloads the library to your website, and it just creates a menu page like this and keeps it ready for you. So all you need to do is say add new type of content, and all the content types are readily available, right? So you have image, hotspots, etc., etc., etc. So if I want to try recreating the one which we just did, which is the before-after juxtaposition of Iceland, so I'll just recreate it quickly. So there's a content demo there, and if you want to view it, you can view it. But if you already know what it is, easy to use. So just click on use. And it will ask you for certain elements. It'll ask you for a title. So let me call the title as seasons. If you have a heading, that's up to you. Use the slider. You needed two images. So I'm going to add two images. So the first image, I'll just click on this Let me take the one which says winter. It's uploading. Meanwhile, I can call it winter. Then the second image, I add the second image. It's called summer. I add summer. I want a title. Let me just put the title as summer. And that's it, we are done. There are, if you want advanced levels, there is hover text. So when you hover over the image, you can display text. There are behavioral settings as to in case students want to use it in a certain way. Right now, the slider position is in the middle, which is 50%. So if you want the slider to start from the extreme left, you can position that. The slider can be horizontal or vertical. So let's try with a vertical slider this time. And I say create. That's it. So you have the two images, you have the vertical slider, and now you can use this however you want to. If you have a WordPress page that you want to showcase in, you just need to use this link, right? And if you're comfortable with WordPress, you can use it there. Each content management system has its own menu and way of using, but the way to add content is the same in all these cases. You just have to keep your files ready and you just follow the intuitive process, right? And at first glance, before you thought you could actually create it, people felt that this might need a little bit of coding. It doesn't, there's no coding involved at all. The only thing is the difficulty level is where you need some sort of a platform to put it on. And most educational institutions have, some sort of a platform available. And similarly, if I were to look at, we explored the, just 1 second. Never mind. Yeah. So so this was the one with the hotspot. So you have a
Ram will be right back.
Yeah, sorry guys. It's a festival today in India. So everybody is, they call on your neighbors, call on you and give some sweets and go. So that's the thing. So yeah, so this was the one with the hotspots, which you have a map of Iceland, and we had added the Arctic fox, the orcas, the puffin and the sheep. Now, suppose if I want to add another location of sheep, say, that's fairly easy. So I just click on add hotspot. And what it tells me is it helps me move around this dot. So if I see that sheep is also there near Hoffman, where we are going, and so I just move that circle there. And I say, when the pop-up, it should cover the entire background image. I say, okay. And if you want, you can have a header for the pop-up. I can say sheep. And I can choose the type of content that I want to add when the pop-up comes. So it could be text, it could be a video, it could be an image. So I can add the image. I click on that. I just need to go to the right folder and add sheep. In case you have a slow bandwidth, then I can add some alternate text there. In case it takes time for the image to load, the text will at least appear. And that's about it. And I'll just click on update, right? And so what you find now is a new question mark has appeared as a hotspot near Houghton, and I click on it and my sheep appear, right? So it's as easy as that if you have a decent platform to actually showcase it. And like I said, H5P you can just explore. If you go to the website, there's a page called examples and downloads, h5p.org. Click on that and you can see all the various types of content that are available. And they also tell you which all platforms and systems actually support H5P, and you can just get it installed and go ahead with it. And the next one is something more from what I thought we could do as ideas is there's a lot about Icelandic culture which get left out in conferences. So my favorite is the skier is just fabulous. Cold weather or hot weather, and being vegetarian, I find a lot of animals on the menu which I want to photograph. So I think these are some of the safer options in that sense. And some of these content pieces which are information based about culture, you could give it to students as guess the answer, identify what it is, and so on, right? And if we can go deeper into that. And one thing that I thought we could look at is as educators, a lot of my friends are planning to do this. They teach different things, and a brief on what is it that they like to talk about, an interesting idea or activity that is thought out by you or your students, anything polar. And what we will do is recommend the ideal tool to actually demonstrate that for you. And if it's fairly universal, what we can even try doing is we can create content out of it for you and host it so that you can use it from your side as well, right? So yeah, pretty much that. And I just thought I would leave you with a few lasting images which uh, work well with students of mine, even in India. Uh, uh, so this is a couple in Greenland under the midnight sun. India doesn't see the midnight sun, so that's important. Greenland, Ilulissat, obviously all the glaciers out there, fabulous place. And you can show the transformation of climate change. And my favorite, of course, is polar bears, which again, Joanna is closer to, but not so much found in India. So yeah, pretty much that. So thank you very much. I thought I would keep the session not too heavy, but just give a diverse walkthrough of the different types of content that can be used, right? And but yeah, thank you everyone. Any questions, we can take them, and yeah, we can have some QA if you want to.
Yeah, no, thank you very much, Ram. That was fascinating. And I'm sure we're going to have lots of questions about how do we integrate H5P? Like I'm trying to work through my school district website. Can I put that on there or not? So we'll
absolutely, you can. There's no problem at all. I mean, you just need to spend time on it. But like I said, keep your other ingredients ready, your set of images, or give it to students. Like they are absolutely, happy with citizen science, and they'll figure out all the images and sort the images for you.
Yes. Student labor is a good thing.
It's just that it's a lot easier offline in a physical space, and online it's a little bit difficult to track them, and yeah, that's a challenge.
If people hadn't had a chance, if you're not familiar with the Polar Educators website, I've dropped that into chat because we've certainly referred to that a number of times, and it's the home of lots of other great content. as well as all the upcoming Hlaðborð events as we go towards our conference. And I know we have Betsy on here as our current president. I don't know if she wants to say anything or if others have questions. Go ahead.
Thanks all for coming. I just wanted to say that I like the idea of you have some things that you want to create and Ram said he's willing to help you out. Reach out to him, and then if it's something that we can include to enhance the education that we do, we can publish it up on our website.
Yeah, we need photo credits for all your wonderful photos. Ram, that was amazing. The tools are fantastic, really.
You're welcome.
It just the scope of looking at geography and time and data and systems and macro and micro all combined is just an extraordinary new opportunity to get interactive with content. It's fabulous. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sophie. Yeah, I think it's the kids find it really interesting in that sense. When I say kids, I mean till college, because they get to fool around with the interactivity, and the thing is you're gradually revealing something. So there's always the explorer or the detective in the kid who wants to go one step at a time and figure out what's going to happen towards the end. So yeah, I think that's one of the reasons why it's become so popular in that sense.
Right. Do the children self-identify as a detective or an explorer?
I think it's just what hat you wear. And but the challenge is, like in India, a lot of the education is focused towards monitoring and evaluation, not so much about, it's always about completing syllabus and curriculum in the given time. So most of these happen as extracurriculars or after school hours and such stuff like that. But yeah, but the fact is H5P is also mobile responsive. So all the interactivities, at least except for one or two, work perfectly fine over mobile as well. So that's a really great thing in that sense.
Yeah, fantastic.
I just wanted to say thank you, Ram. That was amazing. Like, I can think of all the teachers I teach with, and when this gets put up, that I'm sure that they will, I'm not sure where everybody is today, but I'm sure that it will be really important for them to see this. Like, this is great information for a lot of different disciplines in order to kind of pull everything together. So
absolutely. I mean, like you can, I mean, we use this a lot even for the arts and music. So, we play a background sound and we make the students identify the genre of music and the notes and stuff like that. So but yeah, I kind of kept the examples very polar specific here because of the context, but it's wonderful to use in various ways as well. Thanks so much.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for participating, and hopefully now that this series is completed, you'll be looking back and pointing others to the recordings. And please do use that Slack channel. It's something we're starting to try, so hopefully there will be more and more conversation there. Thank you so much, Ram. That was great. We really appreciate it.
Thanks so much. My pleasure. Take care. Bye-bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.